Mike, today we're talking about episode 26, CanChild's Redefining Childhood Disability with Peter Rosenbaum. It was released in November 2024. What resonated with you in that conversation?
Yeah, it was a great one. He mentions it there. He's really good at talking, and I agree with him. It's a lot of ground he covered there. But I think one of the big things that really stood out to me is how he talked about how one of the biggest changes that has occurred in sort of developmental disability sort of medicine over the last however many years, 50 years, he said, has not been actually changing the medicine, but changing the way they think about developmental disability. And I love that idea that changing the way you think about health and wellness has been the biggest medical advance of that field. Because
Mhm.
to me, that gets me super excited because that's what stories do, right? They change the way that we think about things, right? They change our beliefs, attitudes, and values. And to me, it was just like a huge, like neon sign saying stories are important to change the healthcare system and the way that we do medicine, just as much as some of the scientific research studies and all the, the clinical trials and things like that people spend a lot of money on. Because I was like, man, maybe that would help if I started talking about it that way. It might help rebalance some of the way that we distribute, so the research dollars that we spend, right? Maybe changing the way we think about health and wellness will have more of a medical benefit than actually running another RCT. So and stories obviously one of the best ways to do it. So anyway, I got super excited by that comment. I thought that was a super great way to think about how we can change medicine by changing the way we think about things, and using stories to do that is a powerful idea. The other thing that I really liked is he talked about how he uses a lot of metaphors in his research writing and in his presentations, right? But you helped him visualize those metaphors in his digital story, and how much he really appreciated being able to use the visual metaphor that he hadn't sort of had much experience with. And so I thought that was a really profound sort of idea too, right? Is, you can take these metaphor ideas that you develop in a digital story and start translating them into research papers and into presentations. And so digital storytelling is not just about the digital story. It's about the way, it's also, again, changing the way you think about things.
Well, we had so much fun, Peter and I, working on his digital story. And I think that was a piece of it as well. Like, even when people, and this story was humorous, it was an origin story about CanChild and the
Hmm.
research center. But we even when stories are difficult, I think that in conversation and as you're processing the story, there's so much laughter that can come out of it, and just
Hmm.
enjoying
Yeah.
each other's time. And so I it was just an incredible way to show with Peter, and the number of times that he talked about, like, the process itself and what that was like, and how he can
Hmm.
envision it being used in different ways. It was a really great conversation with him. Um
Yeah.
Also interesting because that digital story came about, and the conversation with Peter, because of other digital stories that had been created around a research trial. And so
Hmm.
that reminder that, like, one story can often lead to another story,
Lead
and
to
you
another.
almost
Yep.
end up with this, like, library of digital stories. But thank
Hmm.
you for
Yeah.
coming on and telling us what your thoughts were. I know you haven't met Peter before, so it's
No.
always interesting to hear from different people around their experience. We were talking about episode 26, CanChild, Redefining Childhood Disability with Peter Rosenbaum. You can find all the links and listen to the story through the show notes.